Name's Chase, one of the pastors here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us online, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, or our website. We're glad to see you. It's good to see people in the room. I've been used to the past few weeks just staring at that camera, and so I've spent like 12 weeks conditioning myself to look at you. And now there's people here, and I don't know who to look at. So I feel bad if you see me looking over your heads the whole time. It's not I'm staring off into heaven. I'm just looking at everyone online joining us today. So everyone good? My mom, my dad, sister, brothers. It's probably the only people watching right now is my family, so we're glad to have you guys. Thanks for being here. I got a question for you. How many of you heard the statement, talk is cheap? You ever heard that before? Come on online, shout, smash the like button if you've heard talk is cheap. And I fully understand what that means. I get it. I know that talk is cheap means that you should follow through on what you say. Like if you say you're going to do something, you should do it. And if you don't, then your words don't really mean that much because you didn't follow through on what you said. And when I think of that phrase, it reminds me of this meme I've seen many times over the last few months that makes me laugh every time. It says this: if a man says he's going to do something, he'll do it. He doesn't need to be reminded every 6 months, okay? That's a dad joke or a lame pastor joke. Either one is not that good. But it makes me smile every single time. And I love it. I love the idea that talk is cheap when you don't follow through. But the truth of the matter is, and what we're going to talk about today, is that talk is actually costly. Like what you say actually matters a lot. And the words that you speak are actually really, really important. And so although I get what talk is cheap means, I would say that talk is costly, that what we say matters a lot. The things that we say are really, really important. And the reason I want to talk about it today is, to be honest, in our world today, there's a lot of talk going on. I hear a lot of people talking and see a lot of people texting or talking through social media. And the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of talk happening right now. And when people hear you speak, or they read what you speak with your thumbs or type out on your computer, whatever you may share on social media, what people hear you speak, they're painting a picture of who they think you really are. Maybe either that was convicting or you don't fully get it. When you speak, people are deciding who they think you are. People are painting a picture of who they think you are, the person that they believe you to be. They're painting a picture based on what you have to say. So what you say is really, really important, and everyone's paying attention. I don't think we fully understand that. And I've heard people say this phrase, well, we don't just listen to what people say, watch what they do. Don't just listen to what people say, watch what they do. And again, I think that's really important, especially in the Christian world, especially when it comes to faith, that if you're going to claim you love God and you're going to claim you love people, your life better be a life that's loving God and loving people. There better be action, there better be speech that comes that's doing those things. So again, I think it's important that we look at what people do, but it's pretty important that we also pay attention to what we say, because what you say says a lot about who you are. And I think this is something that we need to take very serious and pay attention to. So today, all I really want to do is help us understand that our speech reveals our heart, to help encourage anyone listening to be cautious and thoughtful about the words that they choose to say. And I think it's important that we talk about it now, not just because of everything that's going on, but we're in a series called Jesus, Period, where we're taking a look at some of the things that Jesus said, because the truth of the matter is, no matter what in this world, y'all need Jesus. Thank you. There's someone back there. Y'all need Jesus. Whether you don't know Christ, you say, I'm not really sure about the whole Jesus thing, I'm still checking him out. Guess what? You need him too. And if you're a follower of Jesus, I've been following Jesus for 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, 50 years. Guess what? You need Jesus too. And you need a lot more of Jesus. And I believe that the more Jesus that we have in our life, the more we listen to what he says and learn from what he did, then the more our life will look like Jesus. And the more our life looks like Jesus, I believe, the more people will begin to like Jesus. Because Jesus' life is pretty important, and the things he has to say for us are pretty important. So we're going to look at this one statement, this one phrase that Jesus said, and we're going to see if we can learn a thing or two about our speech. So let's check it out. Matthew chapter 12 says this: for out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. The good person out of his good treasure brings forth good, and the evil person out of his evil treasure brings forth evil. But then he continues on and he says this: I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give an account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. Now, before you begin to write off this message as something just for the kids, Guess what, adults? You probably need this more than your children. You probably need to know that your words matter, what you say is important, and I'm not just speaking to you, I am looking in a mirror. I should have put a mirror on the front row because guess what? I talk a lot. Amen. No one said it. Good. All right, good. I was waiting for it to be like, yeah, you do. I talk a lot. It's part of my job, and it's just part of my personality. And so this message, as I was forming it and trying to really pay attention to what Jesus had to say about what we say, was really speaking home to me. And so sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes I find a way to be flexible enough to put my foot right up in my mouth. And maybe you've done that before in your life, and so hopefully we can learn a thing or two from what Jesus had to say. So I got 2 thoughts for you today. One is this. I would start with this. The things you say something about you. The things that you say something about you. I said it earlier, I said that when you speak or when you type or when you share something on social media, people are painting a picture of who they perceive you to be. People are forming an image of who they think you really are. When you speak, people are looking at the tones you use, the words you use, and this all paints a picture of who that they think you are. And Jesus says, out of the abundance of the mouth, out of the overflow, or abundance of the heart, out of the overflow of the mouth, you know what I'm saying. Out of the abundance of the heart, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. If you slow down a little bit, you might get the words out that you want to get out. Now, some people may think that this is unfair, that people form an opinion based on just what we say. And I would just tell you that it might be unfair because they're not getting the full picture of who you are, but it's just a part of life that they're painting a picture of who they think you are. Take social media, for instance, okay? Sometimes for some people, the only impression they get of you is what you say on social media. Social media has the ability for us to have thousands of friends. And I want to apologize if you're on Facebook and you only have hundreds of friends. I just happen to have thousands. And so it's no big deal. It's just, you can get more. Just let anybody who requests to be your friend be your friend. That's how I do it, no matter where they're from. And so I just have thousands of friends. And so you get lots of friends. And the thing is, most of those people don't see you every single day. Most of those people you probably don't even see on a regular basis. And so they don't get a chance to see how kind and how caring and how gracious you are when you're around people and how you just light up the room. What they do get a chance to see is how divisive you are and how hateful your comments are and how mean you can be behind the computer screen. And since that's the biggest or maybe the loudest impression that they get of you, they're forming an impression of who they think you really are. So the question is, are they getting the right impression of you based on the things you say, based on the things you speak? What do you talk about the most? What do you talk about the loudest? What are you most passionate about when you speak? What are you known for? Most people don't get to see how loving and caring you are in person. They just get to see what you say and see what you put on Facebook, and that may be hard to hear. And I've come to this conclusion in my life about social media is that no one is going to change their mind about a topic based on a Facebook post. But they will change their mind about you based on a Facebook post. These guys get it. Most people aren't going to change their mind. Listen, not all the time, about something that you share. Say, they're finally going to change their mind, and they're going to find the right way because I posted the perfect article. It sums up everything they need to know about this topic, and it's going to change everyone's mind. Most of the time, they're not going to change their mind. What they're going to do is they're going to change their mind about who they think you are, based on what you had to say and what you had to share. So it's really important that we pay attention. That's just one example of how our speech matters. What you say helps paint a picture of who people think you are on the outside. People are watching you and listening to you, and by the words you choose to speak, they're going to decide who they think you are. But Jesus actually said it a little bit deeper. He says not just people around you are going to form an opinion, because that could be wrong. They could paint the wrong picture of who they think you are just by watching your social media or just by listening to the words you speak. But Jesus says, you know what? It's not just an external picture that's happening. When you speak, you're showing us an internal look of who you are. You're giving us a look at your heart. He says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth will speak. What is inside of you overflows outside of you through the words that you choose to say. So Jesus says, I can tell you the kind of person that you are by the words that you choose to speak. He says it this way in Matthew 12. He says, the good person out of his good treasures brings forth good. If this good person, out of the good treasury in their heart, they're going to bring forth good. And the evil person, out of the evil treasure, brings forth evil. What is inside comes out. So if inside your heart you're a good person, loving, joyful, peaceful, patient, kind, faithful, gentle, self-control, and gracious, these things will come out in what you say. Ah, isn't that pretty? Do you like that? You should. It's the fruit of the Spirit. It's kind of important that you would like that list. But he says out of an evil person, if inside of your heart, if inside of your life is mean, hateful, prideful, selfish, enviousness, then that kind of stuff is going to bubble out and come out outside of you. And sometimes we choose the words that we want to say. We're thoughtful, we're careful, and we know what we're going to say, and we know when we're going to say it, and we can control it. We can put it where we want it to be put, and we can make sure people hear it in the right way. But sometimes life happens, and sometimes pressure comes, and situations and external circumstances come that cause us to just blurt out some things. Ever been there? Yeah, only a few of you will admit it, but y'all have, okay? Y'all. Because y'all need Jesus, right? Y'all been there, right? Maybe it's in your parenting where the kids just kept doing the things and kept doing things. All of a sudden it's like, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe it's with your spouse where just pressure has come and stress has happened and you didn't want to say it, but you said it and the words just came out, and after they came out, you wish you could have taken it back. Or maybe at work or in a family relationship or whatever it might look like, there's all this pressure and all this stuff happens around you and circumstances that are outside of your control, and all of a sudden, you spit out some words that you wish you could take back. And I started thinking about a water bottle and thinking about whatever is inside of us will come out. And I started thinking that if there's good, clean, lukewarm water from 6:30 this morning when I filled it up, and we choose to put it where we want to choose, we can, that's refreshing. Not really, it's really old. Right? But sometimes we choose the words we want to choose. We put them where we want to put them. People hear it, and they're refreshed, and it's encouraging, and it's great. But like I said, and we talked about this last week, we talked about the verse that says, in this world you will have trials and sorrows. And that Greek word means pressure. You will have pressure that comes, stress that comes. The world will shake you up, and the world will put some pressure on you. When that happens, sometimes water just goes. Sorry, Bill. It's shot farther than I thought. Sometimes words just go wherever they want. External pressure comes. Life flips you upside down, and you can't control what's going to come out. It just happens. And listen, if it's just water, no big deal. It'll dry. And you can adopt the saying that we have around our house. It goes like this. Like Grammy always says, it's just water. And the reason we say that is because Grammy is gracious and kind with her grandchildren when they spill. But Dad has had some issues in his past that I don't understand this, but somehow if you've ever had kids, and if you remember what it's like to have kids under the age of 10, it tends to be that they don't understand that a cup looks like that and not like that, okay? Because I tend to find myself every day looking at cups like that on the ground, and most of the time it's water, but I used to have this problem where I'd see it and I'd be like, why did you do that? And I would kind of get a little frustrated. I'd be like, don't you know that if you dance with your hands at the dinner table, you will spill? It's just going to happen. And so we started adapting the phrase, well, just as Grammy always says, just water. I just really like spraying water all over the place. So I'm just trying to find more examples of how to use that. As Grammy always says, just water. If it's just water, no big deal. If it's just water, no big deal. If your inside of you is full of peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control, woo, when you overflow and when you get stressed, when life puts pressure on you and that comes out, it's not that big a deal. At work, it's not that big a deal, the word you say, because inside is all good. But what if inside is grape juice? What's over? I'll come over here. I respect you too much in the front row over here. What if it's grape juice? Right? What if inside of you, whatever is inside is going to come out, and you know and I know that if it's grape juice, I'll be gentle. If it's grape juice and grape juice starts coming out and gets all over the place, listen, we know that it's going to make a mess, and no matter how big of a mess it makes, it's going to be a lot harder to clean up than just water, right? It's going to leave a stain. It's going to make an impact. And those that are around you, when that boils up and comes outside of you, they might be hurt in such a way that you can't fix it. It might leave a stain. It might leave an impression that you didn't want to leave. And they're going to begin to form a picture of who they think you are based on the explosion that you just had. Jesus tells us that whatever is inside the cup, whatever is inside your heart, will overflow into the words that you choose to speak. Whatever's inside will come out. It might be a bigger deal depending on what's inside. It says out of the good treasure of a good person comes good. But out of the evil treasure of an evil person comes evil. The word treasury there is a Greek word. It's the thesaurus. That's the Greek word. Thesaurus, which means a storehouse for precious things. What does thesaurus sound like? Let's go! Right side of the room! Thesaurus! Thank you. It means thesaurus. And if you know what a thesaurus is, which I totally knew and didn't have to look it up, a thesaurus, I'm totally new, is a storehouse of synonyms. It's a storehouse. It's a book full of words. It's a storehouse, a treasury full of them. So this word says if you have a good treasury inside of you, a good thesaurus inside you, then the words that come out are going to be good. The things that come out when pressure comes are going to be good. And the reason I want to sit on this is the point of this message is not to tell you to fix all your outside stuff. It's not a list of 10 words that you should say and 10 words that you should never say. That's not the point of Christianity, and that's not the point of this message, is to fix up your outside. Because anyone can come along and say, look, this right here is a clean, fresh water bottle. Look, it's clean. It's good. Spill it. No big deal. Woo! Tape didn't last 2 services, all right? Anyone can fix the outside, the external. You can clean yourself up and make yourself look good, but Jesus says there's a heart level that I want to get at. That's why Jesus doesn't just say, stop saying bad words. He says, actually, out of the abundance of your heart is what is going to come out of your mouth. Jesus has always been about internal change. He's always been about the heart of a person. That's why we say, Jesus, would you come into my heart? We want him to change us from the inside out. That's why when Jesus is talking about murder, he says, you've heard it said, don't talk about murder. But I tell you, don't hate your brother or sister. He says, you've heard it said, don't commit adultery, but I tell you, don't lust inside your heart of another person. Why? Because if you can let Jesus work on the lust in your heart and the hate in your heart, it won't lead to murder and it won't lead to adultery. If you can allow Jesus to be the Lord of your thoughts and the Lord of your heart and the Lord of your mind, then it won't lead to those external things. So the point of Christianity is to let Jesus work from the inside out. The point of Christianity is to let God take control of our life and take control of our thoughts and take control of our heart. And when Jesus has your heart and is working on you from the inside out, I believe your life will work better. You don't always have a say in what happens around you. We don't always have a say in the external circumstances in our life, but we do have a say in what we say about it. The words you choose to describe yourself and your life and your circumstances impact the attitude that you have, which I believe impacts the day and life that you can have. Another saying in our house that I really wanted to adopt for the kids, but sometimes it's gotten thrown back in my face, is this: if you change your mind, you have a good time. Change your mind, have a good time. Because sometimes people are just so, we get stressed. Life, even as kids, you get stressed, you got things going in your life, it's not going well. And when they're like, I don't feel so good, I'm not happy, I was bad, change your mind, have a good time. Because if you can change the way you think about this situation, you can change the way the external situation is going to be because you're going to perceive it differently. And what stinks is when a 7-year-old throws that back in your face, says, Dad, change your mind, have a good time. And I'm going, what changed my mind? You're right, I just don't like it. See, because I think what we speak to ourselves and to our circumstances and about ourselves, it can impact the external that we have. In Romans 12, there's a Proverbs that says this. I like this Proverbs that says, for as a man thinks, so he is. As a man thinks in his heart, so he is. And it's talking about this idea that who we are on the inside matters more than exactly what comes out on the outside. He says if you can transform the heart and the thought and the things you think about and what's going on internally, it will impact the external because what you think about is what you are. As a man thinks in his heart, so he is. So we want Christ to transform us from the inside out. Romans 12 says, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but what? Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. If you let Christ transform and renew your mind, it will impact how you live in the world. In 2 Corinthians 10, it says, we take captive every thought and we make it obedient to Christ. That means when that thought pops in your head and you just want to be angry at this person, you just want to lash out at them, you want to use your words to tear down, when that pops in your head, you say, no. I'm going to take that thought captive and I'm going to make it obedient to Christ because Christ is the Lord of my mind and my heart. And when he takes control of the inside, it will impact the outside. There's another verse in Philippians that tells us that here's what you should think on. Listen to this list. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, whatever is excellent or praiseworthy, these are things we should think about. Our goal is to let Jesus work on us at a heart level, to lead our thoughts and our hearts, and then it'll overflow into the words, how we talk about our life, how we talk about our situation, how we talk about our circumstances, and we can have the right mindset and the right attitude, whatever the situation we're in. Let me just say a truthful statement right now. Nobody is happy with what's going on with this COVID craziness. Amen. Nobody. There's no one going, this is so much fun. I love being afraid of sickness. I think the masks are so fashionable. It does so much for my beard. No, well, some people might be thinking that. Some people are grateful they get to cover up their face because they can have a frowny face all day long and no one will know. But no one is excited about this, not one of us. But there are some people that have figured out how to let the overflow of their heart come out into the things that they say and how they talk about the situation that we're in. And you know what? It's not so bad because what comes out is positivity. What's coming out is they're speaking encouragement and life in the middle of this mess. Love overflows and grace overflows and peace overflows and patience overflows. But for others, as I listen to people talk about what was going on in the world right now, you feel and you see overflowing in their words hate, anger overflows, discouragement overflows, hopelessness overflows. And Jesus says, whatever is inside, when pressed, when squeezed, when life turns you upside down, whatever is inside will come out in how you speak. For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. The things you say something about you. So a question I just want you to sit on for a second is, what are you saying about you? What are you saying about the situation that you're in? The circumstances that you find yourself in? What are you saying about you? Because what you say impacts how people see you. What you say paints a picture of what's really on the inside of your life. And what you say, I believe, to yourself about your situation can actually impact the external in your life. So what are you saying about you? The other quick thing I would say we can get from what Jesus had to tell us is this, that Jesus said that the things you say will matter one day. You look at the second half of his statement, the things you say will matter one day. He says, I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give an account for every careless word they speak, for by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. People will give an account for every careless word they speak. Now, I don't know exactly how this is going to look or what exactly this means, but I'm positive that it means we need to take our speech seriously. I'm positive that this means that words are important and that words matter. I don't know if Jesus is going to sit down with us one day and he's going to pull out his phone and he's going to say, let's take a look at all the words that you said. And he's going to start scrolling. And you say, you said that? You posted that? You said, are you sure? Now, before like the digital world was so big, I honestly, when I read this, I thought it would look more like this. I thought it was kind of like an old filing cabinet, and Jesus would be like, Reber, R-I-B. There he's Chase, and he'd go, and he'd go, 1987. The first words out of your mouth were tacos. I don't know what it was. Sorry, Mom, I really have no idea what I said. And then he's going to start looking and saying, look at all this. Did you really say that? You called that person what? Why did you? I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but from this, I believe that we're going to be held accountable for everything we said. Even, it says, the careless words you speak. This word means thoughtless or empty. Those words that you just kind of come out and you didn't really plan, like you didn't spend a lot of time thinking about what you were going to say to that person. You just kind of went with it, where you did what I often do, and you speak before you think, and you do that. We're going to be held accountable for every careless, thoughtless word that we say. Words are important. Let's think about it for a moment. Think about it. Yesterday, picture yesterday. Think about every word you might have said yesterday. Some of it you don't even remember. But you're going to be held accountable for that. What if Jesus called you over and said, hey, let's take a look at yesterday real quick. What'd you say? Was it honoring to God? Was it encouraging to others? Was it positive, uplifting stuff? If Jesus sat down with you today and asked to go through the things that you said yesterday, would you be embarrassed or ashamed? If he wanted to go through your words, would you be ashamed of what you had to say? Because one day we will give an account for every careless and thoughtless word that we speak, and this should cause us to care and think more about the words that we say. But then he says this thing that kind of threw me for a little bit. He says, for by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. Now, if you're listening right now and you know church world and church life and church stuff, you're like, I've been around Jesus for a while, which I've been following after Jesus for a long time, and at least in my life, it's been a long time. And I saw this and I was like, wait a second. I thought we were justified by Jesus, right? Like I thought we were justified or condemned by what we did with Jesus. Since I started thinking about this word justified, and as I grew up, I was told this, that justified is like this, that in God's eyes, he sees me just as if I'd never sinned. Justified, just as if I'd justified. Just as if I've never sinned. Because one day, I believe that Jesus came and died and rose again for my sin and my salvation. And as long as I put my faith and trust in Christ, then God looks at me through what Jesus did, and he sees me just as if I'd never sinned. So I'm justified by what I do with Jesus. So I was like, wait, it says you're going to be justified by your words and condemned by your words. But then I was reminded of this verse that I say all the time, and it's Romans 10:9. Throw this verse up. Romans 10:9 says, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Salvation comes from confessing your mouth what is already in your heart. If you believe in your heart that Jesus came and he died and he rose again for you and your sin and your salvation, if you believe that in your heart, it will bubble up. It will come out in the confession that Jesus is Lord of my life. So there's a connection again between our mouth and the words we choose to say and what we confess and what we believe in our heart. Just like Jesus says, out of the abundance of your heart, the mouth speaks. There's some connection there. So really, we're justified by what we say and believe about Jesus, right? We're justified. If we call him Lord, we will be justified. When we have to stand before Christ, he's going to say, God's going to say, what'd you do with my son? You're going to say, he's the Lord of my life. I believe that he came and died and rose again for me and my sin and my salvation. And by our words, we will be justified. And if we don't do that, if we haven't made Christ the Lord of our life, by our words, we will be condemned. We confess with our mouth that Jesus is Lord, and we connect it to what we believe in our heart, that he died and rose again, and we're saved. What we say will matter one day. What we say is important because what you believe in your heart about Jesus is confessed with your mouth, and we're going to be held accountable for that. So is he the Lord of your life? And if he's the Lord of your life, is he the Lord of your lips? Things you say something about you, and the things you say will matter one day, so we should care about our words. We should be asking Jesus to transform us from the inside out, at a heart level, that he would work internally so that way we are able to speak life-giving things externally. And I came across this psalm that maybe would just be a great prayer for you today and every day for maybe the rest of your life. Check this out. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing to you, O Lord. There it is again, the connection between your words and your heart. God, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable and pleasing and honoring to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Man, that's a prayer I need all the time. As I was doing this study for this message, I was trying to decide and figure out how many words I say every day. And I thought, that would be kind of interesting. How do you track that, though? Because I speak a lot, and I couldn't figure that out, so I went to Google, because Google knows everything, and I was like, Google, how many words does the average person speak a day? And I started seeing this really wide range, 7,000 to 16,000, and I thought, well, that's a pretty big range. But then there was even a lot of people saying maybe it's 30,000. So I decided that no one really knows, and so I can make up a number just like they did. And so I picked 10,000. One, because it's just an easy number to remember, and two, because it's more than the lowest, and I know I'm way more than the lowest. I promise I'm more than 10,000. But anyway, I was trying to discover this. Let's just say you speak 10,000 words a day. Even you introverted people, I guarantee you're up there, okay? 10,000 words a day. Think about it for a moment. 10,000 words a day. How many of those 10,000 words that you spoke yesterday or that you're going to speak today, how many of those 10,000 words would paint a positive picture of who you really are for others to see? How many of those 10,000 words that you spoke yesterday made a positive difference in the life of someone else? Because the things you say something about you. How many of those 10,000 words you spoke yesterday were honoring to God? How many of those 10,000 words you spoke yesterday served little or no purpose at all, were careless and thoughtless? You're still going to be held accountable for those, because those things you say will matter one day. So my hope for this message and my hope for this time together, we've looked at Jesus and the words that he spoke, is that we would allow Jesus to change us from the inside out on a heart level, that he would transform our mind and what we think about and what we say and think on the inside about our life and our circumstances, that would impact our external and our actions, that we let him be the Lord of our life, the Lord of our mind, and the Lord of our lips. That before we speak, we would think longer. we would talk slower, and we would choose our words more carefully. For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Your words matter. People are painting a picture of who they think you are, and what you say externally is what's going on internally. It's a picture of who you really are on the inside, and what is inside will come out. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Let me pray for us. Lord, we're so grateful for your word and your truth, and for Jesus who gives us these little challenging yet inspirational, encouraging little nuggets of truth that throughout his life he left some sayings behind for us to put into practice into our life. And Lord, my prayer is just this psalm over the life of everyone listening, whether it's online or in this room. My prayer over every single one of you right now is that we would be able to say this out loud. Lord, let the words of our mouth and the meditation of our heart be acceptable and pleasing and honoring to you. Lord, my prayer is that every single one of us would allow Christ into our life to transform us from the inside out, that we would let him do a heart-level work, that we don't just try to fix up our external and try to stop saying certain words and start saying other words. We're not worried about that, because if he transforms us from the inside, it will make an impact on the outside, for whatever is within us will come out through the words that we speak. So my prayer, Lord, over every one of us today is that psalm. Let the words of our mouth and the meditations of our heart, the things we think about, the things we dwell on, may they be acceptable and pleasing and honoring to you. O Lord, our rock, our Redeemer. You are our God. Thank you for your Son, for his teaching, for how it can transform our life if we let it. It's in your name we pray. Amen.